Imagine working in dentistry for 2 decades to only be let go, finding yourself unemployed after being incredibly loyal to an organization and deciding, what the hell do I want to do next? So you partner up with a couple women and you create Digital Dental Assistant Academy, where you're now training and developing dental assistants, which in mine and my guest Wayne's opinion are some of the most underutilized team members inside the dental industry. Well, that's what Wayne is doing, and he's super passionate about it. And we don't just talk about that. We talk about his path on getting to where he is today, and also his version of success, which is something that I talk about all the time and something I'm super passionate about inside my coaching work and my women's coaching program as well, which is finding your path and finding what really matters to you, because once you're able to declare that, the rest, as my grandmother used to say, is gravy. Wayne and I are also meeting the day after Game 3 of the NBA Finals, featuring our favorite basketball team, the New York Knicks. And listen, haters gonna hate, we know it, but us New York Knicks fans, we are proud and we don't care what you got to say, because we know they are a great team and we're super pumped, even though the officiating on Game 3 was pretty horrendous, and we all know Vegas rules and the game was probably rigged. Anyways, I digress. Today's episode, we talk about a whole lot of stuff, and Wayne actually pulls back the curtain a little bit on some of the toxicity and competitiveness in the sales industry within dentistry and some of the dog-eat-dog mentality on the vendor side. We cover a lot of stuff and can't wait for you to dive in. Please meet Wayne. All right, Wayne, here we are meeting the day after Game 3 of the NBA Finals with our favorite team, the New York Knicks. And it's been pretty historic, the entire playoffs for the Knicks this year. And last night was excruciatingly painful in the spirit of just some really, really shitty officiating. And someone called me a sore loser today, and I was like, no, but really, the officials sucked. And they and they all
Subjective. It's subjective.
it's very subjective.
The refs had a horrible game last night.
Yeah, exactly. And I was kind of thinking too that how many people might just stop listening to this podcast because we're Knicks fans, and there's a lot of haters out there for the Knicks fans, which I find kind of crazy, because it's not like we are arrogant like Cowboys fans or 49er fans or
If you look at the news from what happened last night after the games, I'm not so sure if we're
yeah,
much different.
I know, or Laker fans or something like that. But yeah, I know. Maybe we're just a little over the top. But yeah, it's not like we're riding on winning streaks here. But I was thinking as we were jumping on that maybe, the Knicks are a bit like dental assistants in some ways. And because you have a huge passion for dental assistants with your current company now, and
Yes.
I want to hear all about how you got there. But I do. I think there's a little bit of overlap with the Knicks and dental assistants and the grit and the determination that comes with that. So talk to me about your love for dental assistants and where you think they fall in the hierarchy and the level of respect in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we'll start there. The respect level for dental assistants is not there, unfortunately. And it starts with pay. They're one of, if not the lowest paid employee in a dental practice, and they do the most. From setting up a room to tearing down a room, cleaning the room, setting the next patient up, sterilization, taking x-rays, working technology, you name it, they probably have their hand in it somewhere. And they're just not treated like anybody else in that practice, unfortunately. One of the things that we want to do at Digital Dental Assistant Academy is bring that to light, and in the form of elevating their career to really take control of the digital workflow in their offices, giving them more confidence, giving them a purpose or a deeper purpose, and really showing that they have extra value than what a lot of dentists or even practice owners or groups, whoever it might be, believe that they have. And I think, there are a lot of dental assistants out there that have shown that. And unfortunately, they're just still not getting the same level of respect that even like a hygienist would get. And
Yeah.
I think that some of that goes to a lot of practices don't look at assistants as producers, where they look at hygienists as producers. And the truth is, now with the rise of digital technology, there's so much more assistants can do to bring revenue into the practice. I think we just need to open the eyes of these dentists and really show them what they can do.
Listen, front office, they're not producers either, but I think a lot of times they get way more respect even than assistants as well, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
there is this filter, there's this judgment around dental assistants. And I like what you're saying too, because even in the spirit of water, right? I've talked a lot on here about water testing and making sure that you have clean
Yes.
water. And some of the folks that work in that line of the industry often are saying, give it to your dental assistants, like they can lead this. And there's
Yeah.
so much that dental assistants can lead with, but there's a hesitation to actually empower dental assistants, so much so where they often get left out of continuing education and opportunities like that too. So, I mean, where do you think some of this comes from?
I just think it's been the dental industry for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of dentists just think that they're spit suckers.
Mm-hmm.
They come out of their programs. And that's another thing too. I mean, hygienists, they do programs. There are hygienist schools out there. The same thing goes for assistants. And I think a lot of dentists think that, they're doing these 10-week programs, 14-week programs. What really can they learn coming out of there? But the truth is, they're learning a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the syllabus for a dental assistant program, it's pretty long. On the other side of that, they're not learning digital technology, which to me in 2026, with scanners being around for 20, 30 years now, at minimum, a dental assistant should be going into a practice knowing how to scan a patient.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to your question is I just think it's one of those stereotype, if you want to call it, or a trope for the dental industry is that, low man on the totem pole and they just get the short end of the stick almost every time. And it's unfortunate because honestly, they do the most.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your journey from where you started in dental to your passion for dental assistants today.
Yeah, my journey's been a long one. It's been 20 years. This August will be 20 years in dentistry. I never thought I'd still be here. Coming into dentistry in 2006, I just needed a job and answered an ad on monster.com, that Indeed from 2006 and before then for a customer service rep for a dental supply manufacturer, we'll call it, out of Long Island. Got that job, went from customer service to sales within a month. And in 20 years, I haven't looked back, at least on the sales side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Started there, I was there for 6 years. I went to a company called Keystone Industries for 7 years after that. And Keystone Industries is not Keystone Implants. So a lot of people don't know that or understand that. We would go to a lot of trade shows and we'd be at the Keystone booth and people would ask us about our implants. And I'd have to tell them that's not us. So Keystone was more also supplies, lab supplies, and then eventually they got into their 3D printed resins, which is where I started my passion for dental technology with 3D printing. So after Keystone, I went to SprintRay for 3 years, and that's really where I built my passion for dental 3D printing in general, and then just dental technology, scanning, printing, design. It's something I love. I mean, honestly, 20 years in dentistry, I still don't know tooth numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not clinical at all. I have no dental background. I mean, before dentistry, I worked on Wall Street. I owned a bar for 6 months. I owned an eBay store for a while. I did business development for a startup website. I've done a bunch of different things in my short 50 years on this earth. Feels long, but relatively short. So I would say Sprint Rate's really where all this passion started building. And that leads into where I am now with this passion for educating dental assistants to own the technology in their practices and own the digital workflow for their practice and for their dentist. The one thing I saw selling SprintRay printers was that the biggest objection I got from dentists was, well, I don't think my team can learn this. I don't think they'll understand this. They're too old. They're too young. They're not smart enough. It was a million excuses as to why the assistant or a team member could not do it, but nothing about why they didn't want it or it was too expensive, because that wasn't the question. They wanted it at some point. They can afford it,
Mm-hmm.
but they truly believe that their team could not truly work the the technology the way that they thought their office needed it. So I started developing an idea in the back of my head about, okay, well, I'm getting these objections. How do we overcome that objection? So why don't we build an education platform to teach teams and dental assistants how to scan, how to 3D print, how to do simple design, how to run a mill, how to, characterize a denture, just everything along that digital workflow to a point where they can own that workflow for the practice, add value, be producers, elevate their own careers, get paid more. Hopefully, we still see a lot of dentists, unfortunately, out there that, ask their assistants to do more and more and more every day, every week, every year. And their pay either doesn't go up or it goes up in a small, minute way. So we definitely want to change that. So that's truly where my passion for teams and dental assistants really started forming. So we're talking at this point 4 or 5 years ago. And then after I was at SprintRay, I went to CAD-Ray to run their 3D printing division. And that's really where my passion for this project came about. I met my partner, Chelsea Holmeyer, while I was at CAD-Ray. We met in Chicago at the midwinter meeting, probably 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
Mhm.
And we just started talking. We hit it off. We knew each other from social media. And we both started talking about this idea about educating dental assistants. And we both looked at each other like, did we just both have the same idea? And I said, yeah, I think we did. And we came at it from two different perspectives. Mine was to sell more printers and scanners and everything else to make more money. Hers was to educate dental assistants because she had such a hard time getting educated on these workflows. Her practice, she had a pretty good dentist who helped her learn a little bit. But for the most part, she had to learn on YouTube, other video sources, beg people to show her something, go to other dental offices who would help her out. So she wanted to create a platform where there's one place that assistants and teams can go to learn this technology, learn the workflows, learn simple design, just anything to add more value to the practice and to, get their career going again. A lot of these assistants are burnt out. And we're talking, Chelsea at that point, she was probably assisting for maybe 11 or 12 years. But we're talking about dental assistants who were doing it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, who were burnt out from just doing the mundane work every day, doing analog impressions and spit sucking and taking x-rays and cleaning offices. And so a lot of the teams are looking for more interesting things to do in the practice, or unfortunately, they're looking to get out of the practice and go somewhere else. We've seen, I'd say in the last 5 or so years, a lot of dental assistants and hygienists transitioning from clinical to sales. There's a lot of, Shine, Benko, Patterson, you name the distributor or manufacturer that are hiring assistants and hygienists to do their training for them or do sales for them because they understand the clinical aspect of it and they can teach them the technology and how to, show someone else how to use it. So it just makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, that's truly where my passion for this came about. And last year, when I had some free time, I was no longer with CAD-Ray, and Chelsea, started working a little less hours at her practice. We both had time to start putting it together. So, about March of 2025 is when we earnestly really put our heads down. We are looking to expand into doing more partnerships and webinars, hands-on courses across the country. So I would say hopefully by this time next year, we won't be such a baby startup anymore. We'll be, a toddler startup at that point and, really getting out there to help dentists and their teams really, integrate and adopt technology. And not to drone on anymore, but, that's really where digital dentistry is held up right now. There's a bottleneck of not enough people in the office knowing what to do. Most training is aimed right at the dentist, and they'll take it. They'll try to teach their assistant or another team member, but the truth is the dentist is still doing probably 85 to 90% of the work where it should be flipped. A team member should be doing 90 to 95% of digital work while the dentist is at the chair. The only thing the dentist should be doing is approving something and seating the appliance. That's it. So if we can get more practices on board with that, and that's the goal for us, yes, educating the dental assistant, but the truth is it's really to help practices adopt and get the most out of the technology that they already invested in or are going to invest in so they can get true ROI for what they're doing.
Yeah, so many offices invest in tech that never gets
Yeah,
fully utilized, and then they
absolutely.
get really frustrated. But I love what you're saying, and it sort of follows this trend I've been hearing more and more about, which is really taking the time to train and develop your people. So many offices are incredibly busy. They want a body in there, they throw them in there, they just expect the team to train them on the fly as they go, learn by doing, which, yes, there's some merit to that. But bad habits get passed down. People never really fully develop in the way that makes the most sense. They're just kind of mirroring somebody else's behavior and they might not even get the full picture. And next thing you know, they're just operating at maybe 65% of what you would hope, but no time was taken to invest in them. And like we've both been saying too, you have these underutilized team members usually. And not everybody might be interested in developing in this way, but in every office, there's always a handful, right, of people that you could
So
definitely elevate in that kind of way, which I
yeah,
think is really cool.
there's at least one. I mean, most moderate sized practices have anywhere from 2 to 4 assistants, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I guarantee one of them wants to learn something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guarantee it,
For sure.
and that's the way it should be. I mean, you're never going to get all four. It's just in any industry, if you have a group of people doing the same similar job, you're going to see the spectrum. You're
Hmm.
going to see the leaders, you're going to see the laggards, you're going to see the eager and the ambitious, and you're going to see the ones who just want to come in, do their job, and go home.
Yeah.
So, but there's
Exactly.
always one that is eager to do more for the team that they're working for.
Hey, I just want to pop in on today's episode and talk to you about this new GPT I wrote called Boundary Boss GPT. And it's for those moments where you've said yes to something and immediately felt that pit in your stomach, or maybe you've now written 5 drafts of an email because you're trying not to sound mean, even though you're exhausted and you swear you've said this thing so many times to the same person, or you're kind of sick and tired of staying late, taking it on, smoothing things over, and wonder why you're the one that's always burning out. A lot of the conversations that I have on this podcast, we often hear about people hitting these walls of burnout and oftentimes not even knowing what to say. So that's why I built Boundary Boss GPT. It's kind of like having me in your pocket when you're about to respond to a text, email, or team issue, and you just don't know what to say because your people-pleasing brain is completely hijacking you. This is going to help you have clarity, confidence, and self-respect without the guilt, over-explaining, or the drama. Go ahead and grab it in the show notes below. It's totally free, and you're going to love it. Okay, now back to this awesome conversation. So talk to me a little bit too about your take on loyalty in dental offices. I know that was something that we chatted about, and it's sort of a
Yeah.
hot button, hot topic for you. Loyalty either from the employer or the employee side. What's your take on loyalty and how people should view it or see it in their workplaces?
Loyalty is a big thing for me. I mean, I've been in various industries, and obviously the last 20 years in dentistry, which is the one I've seen the most. I've been on the manufacturer side, I've been on the distribution side, I've been on the consulting side. So I've kind of seen it from all angles. And I'm not going to say there's no loyalty anymore, but it's hard to find, really hard to find. No matter what situation you're in, no matter what the owner of the company tells you, how much they love you, how much they want to keep you, how much they want to pay you more or whatever it might be, when push comes to shove, it's always about them. And that's, it's a lesson I learned, unfortunately, relatively recently within the last year or so. I thought I was in a really good situation. Things seemed to be going really well. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't there anymore. And as far as I know, it wasn't for anything I did or didn't do. I mean, I ran a division. We made a lot of money, or at least we were bringing in a lot of money. Maybe cash flow wasn't great, whatever that might be. But let's just put it this way, there was never a discussion of, Wayne, we're not happy with what you're doing, or you're not doing enough. Never that discussion. So it's things like that are hard to take and hard to live, honestly. But just, looking around the industry and seeing what's out there, it's the same everywhere. It doesn't matter what side you're looking at, loyalty is hard to find. And to me, if you have a great employee, find a way to keep them, whether it's money, benefits, equity, communication. There are so many reasons why people leave practices and companies, and it's a lot of it is usually because they're not happy.
Mhm.
It might not be financial. A lot of times it is, but I've left jobs because I thought management wasn't good, or I was treated poorly, or whatever it might be. I mean, but in terms of loyalty in general, I think on both sides it's not there. I always want to look on the employee side of the ledger. And it's hard for me to say that there's no loyalty for employees, but maybe there's slightly more than you would see from the employer side. I think a lot of people want to stay at the job they're at if they're relatively happy and they're getting paid well. But in dentistry, everyone sees it. Even if you look at the big three, Shine, Banco, Patterson, they've all, almost every, not, I can't say almost every rep, but a lot of them have worked for all those companies, and it's usually all about money. A lot of that has to do with, management at these companies who all of a sudden you have a rep making X amount of money, or a group of reps or whatever it might be. I talk more about it from a smaller organization, but it goes into these big organizations too, where they change the compensation plan, they change the commission plan. Now, someone who is making 200,000 a year is only making $150,000 a year, doing the same amount of work or more work. So that breeds friction. Then they're going from Shine to Benko because Benko will give them a 2-year guarantee at a certain level. They run out their 2-year guarantee. Hopefully they're successful. If not, now they're going to Patterson. But if you take a step back, the same things happen at smaller companies as well, whether it's a manufacturer or a distributor. All of a sudden you start making a good amount of money, and then something changes. A benefit's taken away. We can't match your 401k anymore. The commission plan's going to change. I mean, I've seen it and I've been in sales the last 20 years, and every single place I've been at, I've run into that situation.
Wow.
And a lot of the owners, well, my first employer in dental, his favorite line was, "I love paying commission checks. It's my favorite thing to pay because that means I'm making money, you're making money, the company's making money. That's the only check I really like to write." But when push comes to shove, and all of a sudden you're making more than he thinks you deserve, now you're on a different commission plan and you get knocked down again. So it happens everywhere, and that's the on the sales side of the business. And I'm sure it extrapolates into other sides as well, but that's the main friction that you see in a lot of these places. And then you throw on top of that, management is harsh, or they're not capable, or whatever it might be. I mean, there's always something with middle management or upper
Yeah.
management. But for the most part, for salespeople, it's about making money. That's why people are in sales. They want to make money. And if you're good at it, you should be able to make good money. And you shouldn't have to, take a hit in your paycheck because, the company doesn't like that, or they're not making enough money. You signed the deal. You made this contract. Honor the contract.
Yeah.
Don't change it on me halfway through or even at the end. I mean, if I'm successful, let me be successful. I understand, when you have to change commission structures for employees that aren't performing,
Right.
or you need to lay people off or fire people. I mean, I never like to see people get fired, but if you're not performing, then that's a different story. When you treat your top employees almost as the same as you treat your bottom employees, that's not a good culture situation.
Let's get real here for a minute, Wayne. What do you think about
That wasn't real.
no, but I was thinking, because we don't really talk much about like the sales and vendor side of it. But on this podcast, anyways, I haven't had a whole lot of people on really being honest about it. But now that you're, no longer there, you're a bit of a sales refugee at this point. You can talk more honestly. But what about pitting like sales reps against each other and just sort of the competition that I've heard or known to happen within the sales side? And do you think that's beneficial, or do you think that, I mean, obviously from a human perspective, it's not fun. And so beneficial, no, in that way. But as far as driving sales and like the general dog eat dog culture, is that
Yeah.
still very present in the vendor space in dentistry? And do you think that's even helpful, or is that kind of old school methodology?
It's definitely old school methodology. It's not methodology I like. I have a completely different philosophy on sales that most people have, but I've seen it all. I don't particularly like competition. between sales reps, especially obviously at the same company. I like to work in a team environment. And I would rather, if you're going to be putting, whether it's extra commission or spiff money or a trip or something like that, make it a team goal. Don't make it so much an individual goal. I think, pitting team members against each other it's bad culture for the company. I think a little bit of competition is good, especially, most salespeople are competitive. They want to be the best. They want to make the most money. They want to be the best. And a little competition is good. But when you're pitting people against each other, especially in the same culture, I think that's going to breed a lot of issues. And I've seen it happen. Even when I was at SprintRay, I mean, I was sales there most of the time. And then the last year I was there, I was more in strategic accounts role. So I was really helping other distributors grow their business. But the sales team went through a drastic change. They went from when I was doing sales, we had like 6 or 7 reps. And then all of a sudden there were like 40 reps. And when they brought someone in to run this team, it was a very hard competition style. They would post, leaderboard every week in the sales call. Who's the top salesperson? Who's the bottom salesperson? To me, that's embarrassing. Listen, a little competition's good, but I don't need to see if I'm someone who's at the bottom of the pack, I don't want to see that every week, especially when the person running the meeting has no problem calling that person out. To me, if I was the manager in that situation, that's a conversation to have in private. That's, hey, how can we help you? What can we do to, move you up the chain a little bit? What's not working for you? How can, anything to help them, grow and to coach them. I'm big in coaching. I'm big in, just helping everyone move along. When I got out of my sales role in SprintRay, I would still talk to the sales team, especially the newer members, and see if I can help them. I wanted them to succeed, especially the ones in my territory. I mean, I knew everyone. I knew the doctors. I knew other manufacturers. And so if I was able to help them, that's what I did. Unfortunately, not a lot of people feel the same way, especially whether you want to call them VP of sales, director of sales, whatever that position might be. They have their own philosophy, and a lot of salespeople are very cutthroat, and they manage and lead that way, which to me it's horrendous. I just can't work that way, and that was one of the reasons why I did leave SprintRay, because I did not see the culture the way I wanted to see the culture. And funny story about that is when the company started getting a little bit more corporate and bigger, we brought in basically an HR guy to help us define the culture of the company. And there was a team of us who helped define the culture of the company. And for months and months, it probably took over a year, and we built, the core values of the company and what we wanted everything to look like and how we wanted to see hiring done. And then all of a sudden, at the end of this year, all of a sudden, they're bringing on people who don't fit the culture. And it just didn't make any sense to me. We took all this time to develop this culture, and all of a sudden they're, doing things to go against the culture. So at that point, another, reason for me to, to start exiting that company at that point. But, to get back to the question, a little bit of competition's good, but I don't see it in general, or it's certainly pitting, people against each other is a good way to do it. And yes, it's definitely still being done.
Yeah.
Street for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a common theme in some of the stuff you're saying, which is like people invest in certain things and then they underutilize it. So even, hiring an HR company to come in and build out culture, and everyone feeling rah, rah, rah for a month, and then it's back to business as usual. Or buying technology and thinking this is going to be the next big thing, and trying it out and using it, and then you start experiencing some glitches, or things aren't going as smoothly, and then dies off and it never gets used again. It's kind of like people buying exercise equipment or something like that.
Yes.
And I beat this drum all the time, and is accountability coaches, guides, like people that can just hold you accountable consistently. And I'm a huge advocate for accountability, and I am a coach. I'm a performance coach, operations strategist, all this kind of stuff. I have several people in my life that I invest in to hold me accountable so that I can show up and be the best version of myself to serve my clients, to do this kind of work, to be put together all the time. And it often blows my mind when some of the smartest people, and I kind of understand why, because some of the smartest people are the stingiest when it comes to education, accountability, coaches, and things like that, because they think, well, I'm really successful over here, so I know how to do shit. I know how to get stuff
Mhm.
done. I know how to, I'm past this. Great, thanks. I'm on to the next thing and onto the next shiny object or whatever. But the work that you guys are doing too with, coaching and mentoring assistants, and even having the doctors invest in that probably for their team, and just knowing that stuff goes such a long way. And like, even in my work, just knowing that you have someone that you're talking to, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, that's going to check in on you and on your progress, it just keeps you accountable. It keeps you moving forward. And I don't know, I'm always curious about it because I'm so not that way, in the sense of, well, I'm good. See ya. I'm the actual total opposite of, okay, well, I'm clearly making progress here. So why shift it? Like, this is working. Why would I change it up? And I know that I'm also really high on the charts when it comes to routine. And I'm very methodical in how I like to do
Mhm.
things. But if it's working, why shake it up, Well, anyways, yeah, just kind of speaking to that of investing in your people, knowing that accountability and training goes a long way. And if you have people in your life to keep you on the tracks, I think that's so worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm the complete opposite of you, but I'm definitely more of a freewheeling soul when it comes to most things in my life. I'm very
Yeah.
laid back.
Hey, I'm laid back too.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Being routine
No.
doesn't mean being neurotic and tightly wound. Don't get me
I
wrong.
didn't say you were neurotic.
Mad chill.
Um, my relaxed attitude goes through most things in life. I mean, I've been through a lot in my life and I've seen a lot, and nothing really throws me too much.
Mhm.
And I just have a different attitude than most people have. I love my jobs that I do, I love my work, but it's not my life.
That's
So
great.
I'm able to kind of separate the two. And I just don't get phased. I mean, there are things that phase me. Unfortunately, right now, I have a lot on my plate in terms of my businesses and family. And unfortunately, my brother's in the hospital at the moment. So the last few weeks, I've been completely overwhelmed with a lot of different things and slightly phased at the moment.
Yeah.
Starting to come out of it, thankfully. But this is the first time in a long time I've felt like I've been overwhelmed by anything. And for me, that's not good. I mean, that means I'm not being myself. I'm not working at peak performance. So I need to get back to my comfort zone. And, talking about that, I'm all for accountability too. Someone needs to hold you accountable in every aspect of your life. It's hard to do it on your own. There's no question. My wife certainly holds me accountable. She might be the only one at this point, and that's fine. I don't need much, but that's enough. I mean, but that's, my family is what I work for. I work to provide for them so we can have nice things and do cool things together. And I need to work for that. I mean, otherwise, I would retire. If I had enough money today, tomorrow, I'm out.
Yeah.
As much fun as I had in the last 20 years in dental, I'd rather travel. I don't need to be sitting at my desk and, trying to sell printers or, sell memberships for, dental assistant education platform. As much as I love it and I think it's so needed and want to do it, I love life. I love my family and life more than anything else in this world. And that's my goals in life. Everything I do is to go towards those goals. But yeah, I mean, just even my sales philosophy. A lot of people believe in, reading different books and looking at different sales gurus and professionals, and I didn't learn anything from any of them. And, everything I learned about sales was on the job and just from within me. And I've seen everything. I've seen high pressure salespeople, low pressure salespeople, ignorant salespeople, assholes. I mean, and I completely shy away from that. A lot of my managers always hated to hear me say this, but I never considered myself a salesperson. And they would say, well, you're in sales, you're a salesperson. I was like, I get it. I understand what you're saying, but I'm not going to present myself as a salesperson. I'm presenting myself as a consultant, an educator, a teacher, a motivator, a trainer, anything other than a salesperson. Because once someone tells me no, okay, that's fine. Like I said earlier, if you don't need me now, I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to be persistent. And when you do need me, when that time comes, I'll be there for you. And my biggest philosophy in sales is I like to ride the line between persistence and annoyance. You never want to be annoying, but you want to be as persistent as possible. In the last 20 years, I figured out what that line is for me, at least. I never want to, especially when you're talking to dentists, and unfortunately, it's hard to get a dentist on the phone. These days, text messages, emails, phone calls, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can find everyone everywhere. And for the most part, it's usually a text message or a Facebook message that will get someone's attention, which cracks me up coming from, I was born in 76 and, I didn't have internet until I was in college. And I always say that this time was made for me, and the big reason why I didn't ever want to be a salesperson was I was a shy kid. I didn't want to present myself to anyone. I didn't want to talk to someone for more than a minute to say hi, how are you, and what's going on. My family would always say the same thing. It's I love you, Wayne, but you never talk. What's going on in your life? Tell me what's going on. Just quiet. I'm a quiet person. I've definitely come out of my shell in the last 20 years, and I'm pretty happy about that and proud of myself. But the truth is, I still don't like small talk. Networking events drive me absolutely out of my mind. The thought of, walking around a cocktail party and just chatting with someone gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, a good example of that is a couple of years ago, SprintRay had a big event down in Miami. SprintRay throws a great party. At the Fountain Blue, they had a club night at the Fountain Blue, started at like 9 o'clock. I was alone. I wasn't with anyone. So maybe about 9:30 went down, had a drink, walked around, saw a couple of people I knew, talked for a few minutes, and then by probably 9:50, I was back up in my room.
Yeah.
Just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's just who I am. I saw something recently that there's like there's introverts, there's extroverts, and then there's something called like an ultravert, where ultravert kind of rides that line of introvert and extrovert. And a lot of people who know me always think I'm an extrovert. And I'm like, you don't know me
Hmm.
because the last thing I want to do is be here right now. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with you as a person. It's just me. It's,
Yeah.
I'm a homebody. I like my comforts. I like, the people I like. And even when it comes to business, I'm always business first. If I happen to make a friend in the industry, great. And I've made quite a few friends. But for the most part, I want to do my job, have my meeting, and leave.
Yeah.
That's it. And,
Yeah.
and we'll talk again when we have to do next steps or follow-ups or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people out there who enjoy that part of the business, who enjoy taking clients out for dinner and drinks and wherever else they might go, or enjoy just chit chatting any day with them, not about business. And unfortunately, that's not me, and I'm okay with that. It
Yeah.
doesn't bother me the least bit. But for a salesperson, for me, I think that's pretty rare to have someone who doesn't even want to talk to people selling stuff to them.
Yeah. You're selling through like sheer willpower. Yeah.
Through necessity.
Well, it sounds like you really know yourself and you've designed a lifestyle that really works for you. And you've been able to define what success looks like for you. And that's something a lot of people really struggle with. So yeah, it might not look like everybody else's, but it works for you. And that's success to me, is finding out what
Absolutely.
works for you and fulfilling on that. So
I'm
that's
thrilled with
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah. That's awesome.
you'll never hear me argue about that.
Well, Wayne, thank you so much. This has been really fun chatting with you, and I'm really grateful I got to learn about another side of you as well. Everything from a little behind the scenes on sales and the loyalty stuff, and then also what you and your team are up to with your dental assistant program and training and developing them, which I think is really, really cool. And I think dental assistants are really moving into having their moment because more and more things like this are popping up or just advocacy for the dental assistant. And as the demands become greater and greater in dental offices as well, people are really recognizing that it's an unutilized part of the dental team, and there's a lot of people hungry to learn and grow. And it's about time people start friggin' investing in their dental assistants and realizing
Right.
how much of a huge payoff it is.
Absolutely. I mean, if dentists just open their eyes a little bit more and see what is capable from their team, the practice will grow a lot quicker than they want it to grow or they expect it to grow. So I think, we're really trying to bring light to that. And, thank you for having me to talk about everything and my career and all my craziness. And looking forward to chatting with you again.
Yes, and I will relieve you now from your social social hour. All right. Thanks so much, Wayne. You just listened to the Real Talk of Dental. If it hit, if it stung, if it made you feel just a little more human, good. That's the point. This isn't about fixing practices, it's about healing people. And if you're brave enough to show up real in this industry, you're my kind of leader. Subscribe, call in, send your wildest workplace confession. And most importantly, don't clean up for anyone. The mess, that's where the magic lives. We'll see you again on the next episode.